Hello everybody and welcome to the next section in our ethical hacking course. Now in the previous section we finished with the wireless penetration testing section, and we also before that finished the web penetration testing section. Right now let's see what we can do after we actually exploit the network itself. So we saw in the previous section how we can exploit the network or basically hack a Wi-Fi and get into the local network. Now let's see what we can do once we are in. So this is a special section for a certain attack that probably most of you have heard of. It is one of the most common attacks and one of the most known attacks that there are, and it is called man-in-the-middle attack. Now, the man-in-the-middle attack basically is the same as it sounds. It is someone interfering with the connection between a victim and the router. So, let me just explain to you before I explain the attack itself. We need to learn something about a certain protocol called Arp Protocol and Arp packets. Now, that is a very important thing to learn, since it is the fundamental of the network discovery, and also it is the fundamental of the man-in-the-middle attack. The understanding the protocol itself will also help you understand the attack. So what is the ARP protocol? Well, ARP protocol basically stands for the ARP resolution protocol, and it is one of the most simple ones since it is only used for discovery of MAC addresses. For example, let's see what's my IF config. So my IP address. So my IP address is 192.168.1.4. Now, let's say for example, I wanted to communicate with the router. I would have to communicate with its MAC address first. So what I would do is I would send an ARP packet in order to discover what the MAC address of the router is. So the packet would be something like this. Who is 192.168.1.1? Tell 192.168.1.4. And then the router would respond to me with the answer, I am 192.168.1.1 and this is my MAC address. And then the process of communication would continue. Now, on every PC there is something called the ARP table, or basically where you store the MAC addresses of the certain devices that are on your local area network. For example, in order to check which devices you have stored in your ARP tables on your Kali Linux machine, you can just type here ARP -a, and it will show you right here that it only has my router stored, which is normal, since it says right here gateway, the IP address 192.168.1.1, and it gives us its MAC address since it performed the Arp request on it. Now, as we can see right here, I, for example, do not have my main PC right here in my Arp tables, so let's actually let me show you how you can do it. So let me just open my command prompt and find out the IP address of my main PC. So you will see the IP address of my main PC is 192.168.1.5. Now, in order for me to communicate with my main PC, I would have to find out the MAC address of it first. Now, we can do that with the Arp request, and Arp request will automatically be performed if I ping my Windows PC. So ping 192.168.1.5, count, and we can specify a count 3, and it will ping my main PC 3 times. And now you will see if I run ARP -a again, I will have 2 devices right here. As we can see, I also now have 192.168.1.5, and I also have the MAC address of my Windows PC. We got it since the ICMP request or the ping request actually had to perform the ARP request first in order to find out what is the MAC address of my Windows PC in order to send the ping requests. That is a simple idea behind the ARP request. Now there are 2 things about the ARP. There are ARP requests and ARP responses. Our ARP requests are basically something you send to a router, for example, as I said, who is, and the ARP reply starts with I am, or that IP address is located at that MAC address. So let me just show you. If we open up our Wireshark, we should be able to see some ARP requests flowing around. Maybe you will understand it better. And after that I will also show you the contents of the ARP request in Escape, which is a Python library. So let me just open first this. And we can filter out ARP at the beginning. So let us just wait for some, or we do not need to wait, let us just ping something. Or no, I need to open a new terminal, since this is terminal for Wireshark. And let us try to ping 192.168.1.5. It will not give us the ARP responses, since we already have... Oh, never mind. But this is not... Okay, so it did give us the ARP responses, even though we had it in the ARP tables. We can have it right here. Let us just close this. This is enough. You can see that the simple concept of the ARP protocol is this. So we send to the broadcast MAC address, so to everyone, we send the question who has 192.168.1.4. Tell 192.168.1.5. Or basically, let me just check this. This is reversed, so 192.168.1.5 is my Windows PC, and .4 is our Cal Linux machine. So, okay. So this request right here was performed by our Windows machine. As we can see, who has, and then the IP address of our Cal Linux machine, and tell the IP address of our Windows 10 machine. So this was a packet that was sent by our Windows 10 machine to the broadcast address, so everyone on the local area network received this packet, and the one that knows the MAC address of the Cal Linux machine will respond. And the response comes from basically us. It can also come from the router, as we can see right here. 192.168.1.4 is at this MAC address, and this is an ARP response. This is the same thing, just reversed. So here we are asking, as a Cal Linux machine, we are asking who is the Windows 10, and here is the reply, Windows 10 is at this MAC address. So those are just basic concept of the ARP requests and ARP replies. So we will just close this, quit without saving. Okay, and now let me show you something else. Let me just enlarge this, so we zoom it in. And if you type here Escape in your Cal Linux, it will open up something, some kind of a Python library. Basically, we will cover it later on. For now on, just type here ls and then ARP, and you will see the contents of the ARP packet. Now, you do not care about most of these, or actually you care about around half of these. So the OP right here stands for either request or reply. Number 1 will be set to request and number 2 will be set to reply. You can see that in the ARP packet there is specified the source IP field and the IP field of the destination. So basically source IP field would be our IP address, and the IP field for the destination would be the target's IP address. So let's say I want to perform an ARP packet that asks for the IP field, or that's for the MAC address of our router. I would specify my MAC address right here, and I will specify the router's IP address right here in the IP destination address. We also need to specify our MAC address and the destination MAC address which we will be receiving. So we specify our MAC address so that we can get the reply, and in the destination MAC address we will get the answer of what MAC address is stored at that IP address that we are searching for. So that is basically the simple concept of the ARP protocol. Now you might be asking, let me just close this, you might be asking, why am I showing you all of this? Well, it is the, as I said, it is the fundamental of the man-in-the-middle attack, as the all man-in-the-middle attacks basically start with the ARP spoofing. And what is ARP spoofing I will talk about in the next lecture. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what Arp Protocol is. If you want to, you can search a little bit more about it and read on it. It's really not that hard to understand it, especially once we run this attack in practical. You will understand it even more. So let me just finish the tutorial right here, and in the next one I will in theory explain what the attack will be that we will perform, which is the man-in-the-middle attack. So I hope I see you there, and take care. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back, and let us explain in theory what the attack that we'll be performing is actually. So we covered in the previous video what Arp Protocol is, and I also said that the Arp Protocol is the fundamental of the man-in-the-middle attack. Now, the man-in-the-middle attack basically starts off with something called the Arp Spoofing. Now, the Arp Spoofing is basically same if you want to look at it. For example, the MAC address spoofing is us changing our MAC address to someone else's MAC address. The Arp Spoofing would be us pretending to be someone we are not. So let me just open up a paint right here, and let us draw a simple victim PC right here. So this is a victim PC. Let's say this right here is our router, and this is our Kali Linux machine. So we are the attacker. And now we know, let me just finish this screen right here. I will select it with A so you know that this is the attacker machine. And now we know what the Arp protocol is. So in order for this victim PC to communicate with the router, it has to know its MAC address. So that's how they communicate. So basically this PC knows to who to send the packet for the internet once it finds out the router's MAC address. So it knows then that it should send the packet to the router in order for it to continue to the internet. So the packets go something like this, and then the router, once it receives the packet from the victim, it forwards it to the website or to other machine, wherever the packet this is going to. Once the other machine or the other packet from the internet sends the answer, the router then says, oh, this is the answer for, or basically this is the answer for this victim machine right here, and it sends the response back. So this is how normal connection works. Basically the basic connection between the victim PC and the router, and then between the router and a certain website, and then they send back and forth the responses and requests. Now let me just, how can I undo this? So that was a normal connection. Now once you run the Arp spoofing, it means that you actually pretend to be someone who you're not. So we modify the Arp packets and we send to the router that basically the MAC address of the victim PC is our MAC address, and we send to the victim that the MAC address of router is our MAC address. Now what I mean by that, once for example this PC sends an Arp request to find out where the router is, we basically send that victim PC an Arp reply and we say the router is at my MAC address, and then this victim PC will think that we are the router, and therefore all of its packets it will send to us from then. And then we can filter these packets, or we can see these packets, we can basically see what the victim has sent. And also, if you were to only do this, if you were to only spoof the victim, or basically if you were to only spoof the router, you wouldn't be able to forward the packets. So you need to spoof both victim and both router. So after this, you need to spoof as well the MAC address of the victim. So once the router says who is at this IP address of this victim, you reply with the MAC address of that IP address is me. So basically, instead of the connection going like this to the router, it goes to us, and then from us to the router, and then router sends it to some website and receives the packet back. And since it is spoofed with Arp protocol, now router thinks we are the victim PC and it should send the packet to us. So it again sends it back to us, and we forward the request back to or reply back to the victim PC. So the victim PC doesn't notice anything, only maybe a little bit slower connection, and we can read all of the packets that are flowing between these two. So for example, if this PC was to log in onto an HTTP website with a login username and password, we would be able to see that in the plain text. So that is the basic idea of the man-in-the-middle attack. Now you can do a lot of things which we will cover. For example, you can switch the downloading files in the process of downloading them. You can also catch a screenshot from the victim's PC or mobile phone. You can also do all sorts of things, for example, flip their images or basically switch their images or redirect them to a certain websites, to some evil websites that you host, or basically anything you want. You can also try to run some of the script attacks if it sends it to the website, to some kind of a website. You can also just inspect the packets and not do anything and hope that the victim will log in on some page that you can inspect packets in. Now, there is one thing that we need to also know, that there is an HTTPS website. So for example, if the victim right here wanted to visit an HTTPS website while being ARP spoofed, the HTTPS packet would go to us and then to the router. But because of the design of the HTTPS, we would not be able to read the packet in plain text. Now, if the HTTPS is running on SSL, we can perform the SSL strip. And if the HTTPS is running on TLS, or basically, let's say this victim wanted to connect to the Facebook and type in username and password, we would not be able to see that username and password in plain text, since Facebook is running on TLS and we cannot decrypt TLS. So we will only be able to do this on HTTP websites and see the passwords in plain text, and on some HTTPS websites that we can perform SSL strip on. So that would be about it for the theory behind this attack. So we will cover some of the basics later on, and we will also perform some of this with it and try to do a bunch of other things, such as switching pictures on the website, redirecting, capturing usernames and passwords, and so on and so on. Now that would be about it for this lecture. We will continue with the man-in-the-middle attack in the next one, and I hope I see you there. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back. And basically what we will do right now is I will show you how you will install a tool that we will be using in order to perform our man-in-the-middle attack. Now that tool is called basically man-in-the-middle framework, and it comes, well, it doesn't come pre-installed on Kali Linux, so you will have to install it from the GitHub repository. And after that we just need to install some of the requirements that it has, and basically after that you will be good to go and you will be able to run the program. Now I already have it installed right here. As we can see, it is right here, man-in-the-middle framework. So, but I will still show you how you can download it yourself. So go to the Firefox, open up your Firefox, and basically what you want to search is just MITMf and then GitHub. So you open up the first link and we will download it from there. Let me just open this up and let's search MITMF GitHub. So we click there, press enter, and we will open up the first link that comes up, which is this one. So click on it and you will see that this is the tool that we will use. Now if you scroll down here you will see its files, and here you will see some of the explanations. So it says right here, this project is no longer being updated, so you might need to add some configurations yourself if it doesn't work. But we will install the requirements ourselves. So here you have some of the features. Here you have the description. MITMF aims to provide a one-stop shop for man-in-the-middle and network attacks while updating and improving existing attacks and techniques. So active packet filtering modification, you can also use Skippy to do that. As we can see right here, this is some ICMP packet. This is just an example. Here we have some of the examples of the usage. We will basically cover all of these or most of these in the next lectures, for now on, we just want to install this program. Let me see if there is something down here. Currently available plugins, you can see what it currently has. So we have HDA Draw by SMB Trap, Screenshotter, we will also cover that. Respondle, SSL Strip, that was what I was talking about. If the you can use the SSL Strip to bypass some of the HTTPS websites in order to decrypt their data. Here we have Spoof, so we will be using the Arp Spoofing. Also some of the DNS spoofing. You have some of the other options such as Inject, File Pwn, Browser Profiler, and Keyloggers, and all of the other stuff that we will also cover. So right now what we want to do is just download this file, so let's copy the link. And basically open up our terminal. Let me just type in my root password, so change to the desktop. And we type here git clone and then paste the link and add .git. So this will download the file for us, well, for you, since for me it already exists. As I said, I already have it downloaded right here. And once you do that, once it downloads and it copies the file into the MITMf directory, you want to change the path to that directory. And you will have this file right here called requirements.txt. Now, in order to install those requirements, you just want to type here pip install -r requirements.txt, and it will install all of the requirements it needs in order to run this program. Now, that could take a few minutes to finish, depending on how many requirements you already have satisfied. But once it finishes that, you basically just want to type here mitmf.py, and it will run the program for you. Now, I believe I need to specify, or wait, let me just check something. Okay, so it gives us the output of that program. As you can see, there are a bunch of options right here. Here we got some pretty banner right here. You can type --help, which basically gives you the same output as this command, which without the --help. We have some of the other options such as interface that we will have to specify at all of the times. Port, read, config file, filter, spoof, ARP, ICMP, DHCP. So these are just a bunch of the options for spoofing with the ARP packet, the ICMP packet, the DHCP packet, DNS packets, and so on. Shell shock payload, we did cover what shell shock is. You will also need to specify the gateway, so the program knows who is the router. Here we have the load plugin, so we can inject the JavaScript code, so that could be interesting. Here we have some of the white IPs, black IPs, white domains, black domains. Inject content only for these domains, so this is basically just whitelisting and blacklisting. We have the JavaScript keylogger, as we can see right here. We will also try to use that. And we have a bunch of these other options that we can use as well. Now, we will cover all of those in the next videos. For now on, I just want to show you how you can install this tool, and you can see what kind of options it provides. So, the other tool that we will also cover after this, but not in details, would be the Ethercap. It comes pre-installed in Kali Linux, and also I have it installed right here, so you will be able to use it without downloading it. We'll cover some of the basics for it as well. It is also used for the man-in-the-middle attacks, and after this section you will have a really good understanding of how man-in-the-middle attacks work, and you will also know how to perform them. But you will also know that it is something that can be detected. So Arp spoofing is especially easily detected, and I will also show you how you can do that. It can also be done with a simple Python program, which we will make later on. But for now on, that would be it. So in the next lectures, we will continue using these two tools, and I hope I see you there. Bye! Hello everybody, and welcome back to the man-in-the-middle attack section. Now, before we begin using the tool that we installed in the previous tutorial, I just want to show you how you can do this manually using some already pre-installed tools that come in Kali Linux. So, what we want to do, first of all, if you didn't watch the theory video behind this, you might want to watch it, since I won't explain why are we doing certain things right here. But let us get right into this. So, what you need to do is first of all open up your terminal, and since we will be running multiple commands at the same time, we want to use a tool or a program that we installed in the previous videos, or I showed you how to install it. It's called THEO. Now what THEO is, it's basically a terminal that allows you to open multiple windows and run same commands or run different commands at the same time. So let us open THEO and let us close this terminal since we don't need it. So, but don't close it on X, you basically close it on this dash right here, since it will close THEO as well. And now what we want to do is we want to split this THEO into 3 different windows, so we can run 3 commands. Now what we want to do is we basically want to run the Arp spoofing attack against our Windows 10 machine. Now I already show you the command on how to change your, or how to check your cache table or your Arp cache table and see which devices do you have in your Arp cache. So just type here arp-a and you will see all of the devices that you have currently in your Arp table. We can see the gateway, which is 192.168.1.1 at this MAC address, and we can also see my Windows 10 machine, which is 192.168.1.6, which we will be targeting at this MAC address right here. Now if we open up my command prompt on my Windows 10 machine and we type the same command, which is arp-a, we will see that it also has some machines in the Arp table, and we can see that one of them is our router at the same MAC address as we can see right here, and this one right here, which is 192.168.1.8, is my Kali Linux machine, which has this MAC address. Now you will see after we perform the Arp spoofing attack that these two IP addresses will both have the same MAC address, which will be the MAC address of our Kali Linux machine. That's how you will know that someone, or basically us in this case, is running the Arp spoofing, since both of these machines will have the same MAC address, which will be the MAC address of our Kali Linux machine. So now that I explained this, let's run the commands. So the tool that we will be using, which is already in Kali Linux, is Arp Spoof. So just type here Arp Spoof and you will see the usage. It is simple. We'll basically select our interface and our target. Now since we are only targeting one host and not all the hosts in our local network, we'll basically run the same command twice but with the reverse IP addresses. Now let me show you what I mean first of all. So type here Arp Spoof, then -i, and then select your network interface. In my case that is THEO, since if I type here ifconfig, you will see that my only interface that's connected currently to the network is the THEO. Now if you have a wireless adapter that is connected, for example, you can use that one as well, but just name it differently, or just check out the name with the ifconfig command. So type here Arp Spoof -i, then ETH0, then -t, and after the -t we select 2 IP addresses, which one of them will be the router's IP address and one of them will be the Windows 10 IP address. So just type here 192.168.1.1, which is our router's IP address, which we want to spoof, and type here 192.168.1.6, which is the IP address, if I check here correctly, ipconfig, which is the IP address of our Windows 10 machine, which we are targeting. Now this basically means, as I talked in the theory video, that this will spoof both the router's IP address and the Windows 10 IP address, and that will make the packets go through us, since the router will think that we are the Windows 10 machine and the Windows 10 machine will think that we are the router. So they will both be sending the packets to us, which we will be forwarding to the router, which we will be forwarding to the other websites. So we can't only run this command, since this will only Arp spoof one target. We need to Arp spoof them both for this to work. So just type here Arp Spoof -i, then ETH0, then -t, and now just basically these 2 IP addresses that we specified in this order, which is first the router's IP address and then the Windows 10 IP address, you need to reverse. So just type here 192.168.1.6, which is Windows 10 IP address, and here type 192.168.1.1. Now, once you do this, basically just click here enter on both of these commands, and it will start Arp spoofing, as we can see right here, and this will continue as long as you run it. Now, what you want to check right now is, for example, let's open up now our command prompt on our Windows 10 machine, and if I type here again arp-a, you will notice that now both of these IP addresses have the same MAC address, which is the MAC address of our Kali Linux machine, which means that our Windows 10 machine now thinks that the router is at this MAC address, and it sends all of its packets to now our Kali Linux machine, and this will continue as long as we run this. Now, if you go onto the internet on our Windows 10 machine and you try to visit a website, you won't be able to do it. Now, I'm able to do it because I ran a simple command before I started this, which I will show you right now. So let us just close this for a second. If I Control-C both of those windows, you will see that it will clean up and re-arping targets, which basically means that it will start sending ARP requests and replies, which consist of true IP address with its true MAC address. So everything will be back to normal. Now, you probably couldn't be able to go to the internet, the Arp spoofed target machine, if you didn't run this command, which is echo 1 and then proc sys /net/IPv4 and then /IP_forward. This basically means that by default you will have 0 in this file, which means that you will not be able to forward the packets. In order for us to be able to forward the packets, you need to run this command first before you start the ARP spoofing. Now, I was able to connect to the internet since I already ran this command before, but you won't be able to, so you need to run this command. It will basically print, or it will input 1 into the IPv4 file, and it will be able to forward packets from now on. So just press here enter. And if we cat the same file, so let me just copy this right here. So copy and then paste right here. And if we cat that, you will see that now there is 1 in this file. So now you should be good to go. And if you run this once again, you will be able to access the internet on the spoofed machine. So let us do that once again. But right now, let us try to capture some packets with DriftNet. Now, DriftNet, if I type it right here, you will see it will open up a window, a black window, which basically I believe it will pop up some of the files and pictures that the target machine will visit while we are ARP spoofing. Now, in some cases this doesn't work, since basically, as I talked about, not all websites can be targeted to the ARP spoofing and to the man-in-the-middle attack, since some of them are HTTPS over TLS encryption, which is not vulnerable to the decrypted man-in-the-middle attack. So you will not be able to read, basically you will not be able to read packets from the TLS encrypted website. You will only be able to read the packets from the HTTP website or the HTTPS website while performing the SSL strip on it. So let me just see if there are any options for the help for this command. If I enlarge this, we can see that we need the interface, so we need to select the interface for this command. Now the interface will be the same interface that you're running Arp Spoof on. Let's see, do we need anything else? I don't think so, so we only need to run the DriftNet -i and then the interface. So let's first run that. So DriftNet -i and then THEO, and we can see that this opened up right here. And while that is running, or let's first, since it goes to the background, let me just close this and let's run the ARP spoofing first. So I will just go and run the same 2 commands that we ran before. So let me just clear the screen so it looks a little bit prettier. And let's run the same 2 commands that we ran. So this one, ARP spoof, and then first the router and then the Windows 10 machine. We run that one. And then go in the next terminal and we run the reverse IP addresses. So we run these 2, and now the target machine will be able to connect to the internet even while being ARP spoofed. And basically that the victim won't know that it is being ARP spoofed unless they run this command in their terminal or command prompt and notice that there are 2 same MAC addresses, which can be a little suspicious and does point out to the man-in-the-middle attack. but most of the people don't even know what command prompt is, so you shouldn't be worried about someone actually opening this, and you also shouldn't be running this on any network you do not own or do not have permission to do this. So while we run the Arp Spoof, let us now run the driftnet once again, -I etho. And now let's see if this will work on this website. It might work and it might not. If we reload it, we might be able to see, for example, some of the pictures that it will load from the target's machine. So if we load this once again, you will see that it works. And it does load something, not all of the pictures. We can try to load it again, maybe it will work. So you just click on the website. Well, it managed to capture something. I believe this is the picture from the website, or let me just check. See, here it is. It managed to load this picture right here. As I said, sometimes this will work and sometimes it just won't work. But this is just the most simple case of running the Arp spoofing attack and performing the packet capturing in our driftnet tool. We will be covering some of the basically more advanced things that you can do with man in the middle. This is just the most simple form. We didn't even use the tool that we installed in the previous video. We will use it in the next few videos. And basically it will automate this entire process, so we won't really be needing to run 3 commands at the same time. We will only need to run 1 command and we will be able to do all of this. Now once again, if your target machine isn't able to connect to the internet, make sure that there is 1 echoed in that IP forward file, which I showed you how to do it. So let us close this. That would be about it for this lecture. Now if you want to restore the Arp spoofing, or basically restore the MAC addresses with their IP addresses, just Ctrl+C both of these. And your target machine and you might be disconnected from the internet for a brief second, but nobody will notice that, since it will go back to normal in just a 1 second. And nobody will notice that you ran the Arp spoofing attack. So that would be about it for this tutorial. We will continue with the man in the middle attack in the next one, and I hope I see you there. Bye! Hello everybody, and welcome back to the man in the middle attack section. Now, in the previous video I showed you how you can use how you can do the Arp spoofing attack with the Arp Spoof tool that comes pre-installed in Kali Linux. Now, we ran multiple commands at the same time in order to do that. So right now we will be running the same attack just with 1 command using man in the middle framework tool that we installed. But before we do that, I just want to show you some problems that you might encounter while installing the man in the middle framework. Now, if you do not have some dependencies or some Python, I believe, files installed in Kali Linux, you will not be able to run this. Now, I showed how to install in the previous videos, but right now I will show you how you can follow all the instructions they have on the website and install it properly. Now, if it works for you with the previous installation, you can skip this video. So, first thing you want to do is, let's open up our terminal. I will enlarge this a little bit, so let me just go on view and then zoom in and zoom in once again. And right now what I want to do is open the Firefox and go to the man in the middle framework on GitHub. So let's wait for our Firefox to open. Basically there are some few commands that we need to run in order to install all of the files that we need for this to work. So let us just type here man in the middle framework GitHub. And let's open the first link. So let me just see Firefox. Okay, so probably I have the burp suit as a proxy, so let me just turn that off for a second. If I go to my network settings, as we can see, my manual proxy configuration, we need to set it to no proxy, and let's go. We should be good to go right now. So let's reload this page, and we will click on the first link, which will lead us to our GitHub repository for this tool. So let's just wait for this page to load. And here it is. So we click on the first link, which is this one. And on this page they will have a link to follow the instructions for the installation. So let's just wait for this to load as well. And then we will be good to go. So let me just lower this video, or this window right here, so we can have terminal right here. and this right here. So let's scroll down on this page and let's find the link where the installation is. So here it is, prefer link to wiki for installation instructions. So just click on that link and you will see, let me just enlarge this until we run something, and you will see the commands that you need to run in order to properly install this with all the tools on all the programs it needs in order to run. Now some of the commands are not necessary, I will show you which ones. For example, these for the Arch Linux, we do not run these at all. We will run this command right here, which is the important one. So first of all, let's copy this command. As it says right here, this is on Debian and Ubuntu, Kali Linux and so on. So we need to run this. Now it worked for me without this command, but if you do not have these files, this program will not work for you. Now I already installed this, so if I type it right here, it will basically tell me that I already have everything installed. So just click here, enter, so we copy the command, enter it in terminal, and for me everything is actually installed already. And as we can see, is already the newest version. Now for you, if it asks you to install this, just press there yes and wait for this to finish, and then we can go on to the next command. Now for the next command, you can do this. You can basically pip install this virtual and wrapper, or however you pronounce it, and you can source in order to edit it. But for me, this really isn't necessary. If you want to, you can do this. Basically, it will work without these 3 or 4 commands as well. So what I will do right now is skip right to this command, which basically we ran in the previous installation as well. So you just clone the repository in your root directory. Basically I already did it, so I will be skipping this command as well, since I already have it cloned in my repository. Now what you want to do after that, you want to run this command right here. So just paste it in terminal, run it, and for me, I believe this is already finished, since I already did all of this before. And the last command you want to run is the command we already ran before, is pip install our requirements. So once you install the requirements, let's copy this. You can close this window since we won't be needing this anymore. And when you install the requirements, everything should be good to go. After that, you will be able to run the tool. Now, in case you are still not able to run some of the tools, you might want to run those virtual commands that we skipped, but I don't think that will actually change anything. This should work perfectly without those commands. Basically, let me just show you. If I just type here, let me enlarge the terminal, if I type here MITMf --help, you will see I will get printed all of the available options right here, and we will notice that the tool is working perfectly at the moment. So in case it wasn't working for you, it should be working right now, since we installed some of the programs that you need in order to run this. And in the next video, we will be covering all of these or some of these options right here and running our first one command, Arp Spoofing man-in-the-middle attack. So that would be about it for this video, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye! Hello everybody and welcome back. And in the previous video I showed you how you can install the tool correctly with all of the programs it needs, and right now we are good to go and we should be ready to run our first Arp Spoofing attack on this tool. Now if we type here, let me just clear the screen and type once again MITMF, so you can either run it with this, so dot and then slash and then the name of the program, or you can run it with Python and then MITMF -help. So it will run the same output, which is our available options for this program. So let us see what we should use in order to run the simple Arp Spoofing attack. So if we scroll up, we can see first thing that catches our eye is this spoof right here. So redirect modify traffics using ICMP, ARP, DHCP or DNS. Now for the first attack we want to use the Arp Spoofer. So what we would need to specify is 2 commands right here. One of them is the spoof, which is basically just loading the plugin spoof, and the next one is the --arp, which redirects traffic using Arp Spoofing. Now we already taught what Arp Spoofing is, so you should already be familiar with what kind of attack we are running right here. Now There are a few other things that we also need to specify besides these two. As you remember in the previous videos where we ran with 3 commands the Arp Spoofing, we had to specify the targets. Now, right here we can run the Arp Spoofing attack on all the targets that are on our local network. We do not need to specify the target, even though we can. For example, if you only wanted to target one PC, you could do that with ---- target command, I believe. But if you do not specify any target and you only specify the gateway, you will be Arp spoofing everyone on the local area network. So let's see how that works. Basically, as I said, we want to specify the spoof plugin, the Arp plugin, and also, let me just scroll up, I believe it's somewhere here. As we can see, there are a bunch of options right here. Also, what you need to specify is the -i for the interface, so we need to specify the interface that we are listening on, and ---- gateway for our router IP address. Let me see if it is really ---- gateway. Here it is. So specify the gateway IP. Now we need those 4 options to run a simple Arp spoofing attack. So let's clear the screen and type ifconfig. We can see that my interface is ETH0. Now, as I said before, you can use any interface you want. If you have connected your wireless adapter, you can use that interface as well. I'll be using this interface since that is the interface that I'm connected on the network. So let us start off with // and then MITMf.py. The first thing we want to specify would basically be the interface that we're running on. So let's type here -i and then ETH0, which is our interface. So after that, let's load the plugin Spoof for spoofing attacks, and let's set that to spoof with the Arp Protocol. The last thing, as I said, that we need to specify is the gateway with the ---- gateway command, and after that we specify the router's IP address. Now, if you do not know your router's IP address, you can simply just open up another terminal and type here netstat -nr. It will give you the gateway IP address, which is this one for me. You can also check the router's IP address with ifconfig, and it will also give you, let me just find where, it should give you the gateway. Well, never mind, it doesn't seem to give the gateway, but you can use netstat -nr and it will for sure give you the gateway IP address. So once you find out your gateway IP address, just type 192.168.1.1 and we will be ready to run the attack. So let me just show you once again with the command prompt and arp-a command. We can see that currently, before we ran the attack, we can see that arp-a gives a legit MAC address for our router IP. As we can see, 192.168.1.1 has this MAC address, and this right here is my laptop. And let me just find, okay, it doesn't seem to have the Kali Linux machine's MAC address right here, but soon enough it will have it right here. So we will be having this MAC address, as you can see right here, from the ifconfig output on our Kali Linux machine, instead of this MAC address right here on the router's IP address. So let's run the attack. Just press here enter. It will load up this banner that they have. It will load up all the plugins they have. As we can see, spoof, Arp spoofing enabled. We can have these are just some of the options that you can specify. And right now, this spoofing is enabled, and we are Arp spoofing the entire network. As we can see, if I type arp-a once again, the MAC address of the router is the same now as the MAC address of our Kali Linux machine, as we can see right here. So these two are same, which means we successfully spoofed the Windows machine. Now let's see what now we can do once we spoofed the machine. So I'm right here on my Google Chrome on Windows 10, and if I go to a simple website, so we can see that in the app of our spoofing machine, we can actually see that we can actually see who is visiting which website. As we can see, 192.168.1.6 on Chrome OS Windows is visiting this website right here. Now, be aware that this will not show for every website. For example, if I visit Twitter, let me just show you, and I go right here, it will not show us that the target has visited twitter.com, since Twitter is on HTTPS over TLS. Now that is basically not yet vulnerable to the man-in-the-middle attack or to the decryption attack, so we won't be able to see which website is the target visiting. This will only work on HTTP websites and on HTTPS websites running over SSL, while performing the SSL strip, which I will show in the next videos. Now, for example, if you have a page over HTTP and that page has a login, for example, form with username and password, and anyone now on the local network types the login username and password there, it will be visible in the output of our Arp spoofing attack. So we will be having username and password printed out right here. But if someone, for example, goes to the HTTPS website, as we can see right here, and goes to a simple login form, as we can see it is HTTPS, and our target right here cannot really, or our program right here cannot really see that website since it is over HTTPS, and someone logs in over HTTPS, it will not print out anything in our output right here, since it cannot perform SSL strip since we didn't specify it yet. Now, in the next videos I will show you how we can actually gather the username and password from this website as well, even though it is over HTTPS, performing the SSL strip. So that would be it about this tutorial. This was just a simple Arp spoofing attack. So this simple attack will only work, as I said, on HTTP websites for now on, since we didn't really use the SSL strip option. So this is the most simple version of it, of the attack that we can do, and I will show you some of the more advanced versions in the next videos. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!